It was early Saturday morning in June, and I was driving up toward Mount Baker, catching glimpses of the Cascade Peaks flashing through the trees. I was on my way to meet up with a group from the Everett Mountaineers for a weekend glacier climb of Sherman Peak, a sub-summit on the southern side of Mount Baker. Our plan was to climb about 7,000 feet of elevation gain over a 12-mile round trip. Mount Baker is just under 3 hours from Seattle by car, making it a popular weekend destination for climbers and skiers alike. The final stretch of the forest road has no cell service and a fair share of potholes, but as any local knows, no matter how rough the road gets, there's always a Tesla or a Prius parked nonchalantly at the trailhead, casually putting wannabe off-roaders like me to shame. We started at the Park Butte trailhead on Saturday morning with a group of about 15 people. The trailhead is located near Schreiber's Meadow on the southern side of Mount Baker, a common access point for climbs via the Easton and Squak Glaciers. While camping overnight at the trailhead was an option, most of us opted for a few extra hours of sleep in our own beds and made the early morning drive instead. We followed the Scott Paul Trail, which was mostly clear up to around 4,000 feet. Snow started not long after that. In hindsight, we might have chosen approach shoes instead of boots, since the boot path was well established all the way to camp. The weather didn't disappoint. Although the sun softened the snow and led to some post-holing even at higher elevations, the conditions were still a big improvement over earlier trips that had us dealing with whiteouts, cold rain, and soggy snow. I managed to cut my pack weight to about 45 pounds at the trailhead, much better than the 55 I carried a few weeks earlier. Switching to a lighter tent, the one-person Durston X Mid-Pro, and carrying less water on the approach definitely helped. There's still room for improvement though, and I'd like to get it closer to 35 to 40 pounds for future overnight glacier trips. Mount Baker is popular with skiers, and this weekend was no exception. We saw plenty of people skinning up, skiing down, and generally enjoying the snowy conditions. More than once we wished for a pair of skis on a long descent after the summit climb on Sunday.
Big bed, small cab.
It's really small. It's tiny. It's like...
We made good time and reached camp at around 6,000 feet by early afternoon. We set up our tents and spent the rest of the day reviewing rope skills and snow travel, mostly reinforcing what we'd learned in the course.
I'm not going to build a wall this time unless the wind picks up.
Yeah, fun.
One of the essential parts of snow camping is making water. With no running water nearby, we spent much of the afternoon melting snow and pouring the lukewarm results into Nalgene bottles and hydration bladders. It was slow but necessary work to ensure we had enough to last through Saturday and Sunday. Still, the views made the chore feel almost enjoyable. We turned in around 7 p.m. after dinner to get some rest before our early alpine start. The Durston tent I brought on this trip turned out to be a solid choice. It had held up well in previous snowy and windy conditions, and with mild weather in the forecast for this weekend, I had no second thoughts about packing it again. We got up early, like 1 a.m. early, for the summit push. Skies were clear and temperatures hovered in the low 40s. The snow was a bit soft but manageable. We aimed for a rising traverse to avoid the moat and some lower crevasses on the Squak Glacier. As we moved higher in the dark, we saw the flicker of headlamps from other teams scattered across the Easton Glacier, tiny lights moving quietly in the distance. Around 4 a.m., at about 7,500 feet, we caught a glimpse of the Seattle metro area glowing faintly to the south, while the first light of sunrise spilled in from the east. It was a quiet, surreal moment, caught between pitch black on one side and the coming day on the other. Much of glacier climbing is steady, rhythmic walking, hour after hour. You get into a zone, focus on breathing and foot placement, and let the repetition carry you forward. Time is of the essence on the mountain. Every stop counts, so you try to make the most of it. Grab water, adjust a layer, take a quick break. While summer brings longer daylight, there's only a narrow window when the snow stays firm. Once the sun climbs higher, it softens again, slowing movement and raising the risk of punching through into hidden crevasses. Route finding became a bit more involved as we gained elevation. We skirted a large crevasse around 8,000 feet before making our way to the saddle between Sherman and Baker. The camera didn't quite capture it on the way up, but you'll see it more clearly during the descent.
Without all the annoying sounds.
When I was in high school, I played junior varsity hockey. Very scrawny kid, right? And I didn't really recognize how scrawny I was at the time. And so I looked a lot like a chihuahua on the ice, and I'd go after like the biggest players. And so they started calling me killer on the ice, and I didn't realize it was ironic at the time. But they're like, killer, go get him! I'm like, yeah, let's go! And I bounce off the guy, and it's like, okay.
At the saddle, about 200 feet from the summit, we had a great view into Sherman Crater, a reminder that Mount Baker is still an active volcano. The air smelled faintly of sulfur, and steam rose from fumaroles scattered across the crater floor. It's a surreal contrast, all ice and snow, with the mountain quietly venting heat from below. The final ridge to Sherman, heading west from the saddle, was fairly straightforward but required a bit of scrambling. It was partially melted out, and we protected one short exposed section with snow pickets. With Mount Baker rising just to our north and North Cascades National Park stretching out in every direction, the view was incredible. Calm air and early sunlight made it the most rewarding moment of the climb. Our rope team reached the summit just after 8:20 a.m. We didn't linger, just long enough to enjoy the view and make space for the teams behind us.
Look at the endless sea of mountains. Gentlemen.
And some of the pictures.
With soft corn snow even at 10,000 feet, we dropped our crampons at the saddle and plunge stepped most of the way down. Below 8,000 feet, we finally got a clear look at the large transverse crevasse we'd passed earlier in the dark. Just before reaching camp, we detoured briefly to scramble up Crag View, a small rocky outcrop with sweeping views.
Yay, more footage.
After packing up camp, we enjoyed the classic post-climb reward, glissading as far as we could before entering the forest. What followed was a long, hot slog in mountaineering boots along the dirt trail, but we eventually made it back to the trailhead, tired but in good spirits. The Gatorade I'd stashed in the car earlier hit the spot. As I drove down the mountain road, I felt grateful. for the smooth trip, the steady teamwork, and the chance to learn alongside a solid group of people. Thanks to the Everett Mountaineers leaders for organizing the trip, and to the whole team for making it a solid and worthwhile experience. I hope to be back in the mountains again soon.